each flower, he realized, has a frequency. Just like each organ in your body, the hair on your head, your eyeballs, your skin, we have a frequency. And so if you take two frequencies that are compatible, right, so if you take a tuning fork in the family of C and you strike it and it's shaking, and now you bring in, say, a G sharp, they're going to repel off of each other. Those frequencies are not harmonious. They're not going to help each other. They're actually going to end up causing pain to you if you keep trying to do that. If you pick up a tuning fork that's also in the family of C, this one is already vibrating its frequency. The second this gets within range, it picks it up as well. And now we have two beautiful C notes that are, in harmony and in frequency. It's the same idea with the flowers. It's the same idea with dowsing. It's the same idea with acupuncture, with massage therapy, with meditation, with forest bathing, which is my new favorite thing. I didn't know that was the thing. You don't get, you're fully clothed. It's okay. I was worried about that.
Not in Dawson County, they ain't.
Oh! I'm going to write that. Where's that?
It's called Hidden Valley Nudist Resort.
Oh, dear. Okay, I'm going to probably
they don't
not.
wear clothes up there either.
Oh, no. Gosh. That
It's in
sounds
the woods,
dangerous.
too.
I don't want to be in the woods. That sounds very dangerous. I've seen these mosquitoes up here. So this is Dr. Bach. So by 1934, he had created the 38 Bach Flower Remedies that you see in my little kit right here. And each one has a unique frequency, and we're going to go through each one of them and help you understand the subtleties of them and what they're used for. Okay? So yes, I'm Jennifer Hornburg, and I am a retired mental health counselor. And here, we just moved up here last year from Orlando, Florida, where I was born and raised. And I'm so happy to be up here with all this. There's different shades of green, which I didn't know my whole life. I thought there was one shade of green, and it was palm tree colored. So this is just the seasons and the mountains and the people. Every person I meet is more wonderful than the last, and it's just been a wonderful experience. And here, I am a certified life coach here in Georgia, and I am an intuitive advisor. So ever since I was a very little girl, I've had intuitive abilities. I can see energy. I do aura readings. I do tarot readings. I'm an astrologer. I do all the fun, awesome, woo-woo, science-based things, as my husband likes to say. He's the science guy. I'm the woo-woo girl. So we make a nice pairing. Our office is in Kennesaw. And when Ruth asked me to come here tonight, and she had seen on Facebook I had posted that I do teach Bach Flower Remedy classes. And she said, would you be willing to come and talk to my group about it? And I was like, of course I would. So tonight we're gonna do just what I would do in a class. And we're gonna go through, I hope everybody at this point has a handout, right? So we're gonna go through, there's 38 Bach Flower Remedies. I started using the Bach Flower Remedies in the early 90s. After the birth of my first daughter in 1991. And I had a touch of, I guess, what they would call postpartum. Now that I think the kids call it cray-cray now. I was just very not myself. I was off kilter. I was really not feeling well. And a massage therapist, a friend of mine, said, have you heard of Bach flowers? And I said, no, but I like those words. I like Bach, the musician, and I like flowers. So sure, that sounds right up my alley. So I started kind of learning about them a little bit. She introduced me to someone who made a blend for me, which is what we're going to talk about tonight, how we make blends. This is the full kit. There are 38 different Bach flower remedies. And then what I do for people is I do private one-on-one consultations, which after tonight you probably won't need because you can do your own consultation. And you'll see how they just help gently and subtly impact our spiritual experience, our emotional experience, our interpersonal experience. And I'll talk a little bit about the indications and who they're good for, which is everyone. But then what we can do is then what I do for folks is you can take up to 7 different Bach flowers. This one is vine. I give this to my 6-year-old because he believes that it is his way or the highway. He's a Leo. And a Leo man, that's it. It is black or it is white, and there is nothing in between, and he says so, and that's the way it is. So I do a lot of, have you taken your Bach flowers today, sweetheart? Have you taken your Bach flowers? Vine. So we take up to 7 different full-strength flowers, and we blend them in bottles that look like this. It's a 1 ounce bottle. Just because everyone asks, the personal consultations are $60 and the blends are always $20. I think here in Georgia, I couldn't find these for a while here. In Florida, you can just walk into Whole Foods or any kind of health food store and buy these, no problem. I couldn't find them here, but then I think it may have been you that told me they have them at Sprouts.
Yeah, Sprouts
Yeah,
has them.
Sprouts has them, so that was very exciting.
I don't know how many of them they have. I don't know if they have the full
Yeah, they
spectrum.
might not have the whole 38, yeah. There's
Right.
some that are more popular, I think, than others, so they might carry those. So you are welcome after tonight after you go through your little sheet and you go, oh my gosh, this one's for me, this one's for me, oh, this one's for my husband, this one's for my dog, I'm going to sneak this into my mother-in-law's water when she's not looking. So we're going to talk about all of them. And I'm very casual. Anything that you want to jump in and ask me in the meantime or share or whatever, just feel free. I was thinking, I might be able to make a couple blends for you tonight for those who want them. I don't know that we're going to have time to do that because I am mindful of the time. So we'll see. But if not, you can always just jot your notes down and then you can either call me or you can go to Sprouts or you can, however you would like to move forward. Okay? So let's see. I'm sorry, I have to come back here because my cord does not stretch far enough. So we're going to do this. Okay, so this is Dr. Bach. Dr. Edward Bach was a general care practitioner in the 30s in England. He had a hugely thriving, very successful, very prosperous practice for the elite folks of London during that time. And one of the things that he noticed and he became very disillusioned with the medical community because even back then, it was sort of transitioning out of a personal family physician who would come to your house and knew your family, knew your history, knew your emotional ups and downs, knew that you had gotten into a fight with the whole town knew you'd gotten into a fight with she who must be obeyed 2 weeks ago. And so there was a very personalized, it was a personal relationship. And in ancient times, doctors were paid to keep you healthy. They only got paid in chickens or eggs or whatever they paid with back then if you stayed healthy. If you got sick, they did not get paid. Yeah, I know, right? What? Really? Okay, now we have sick care. We do not have health care, we have sick care. So even back then, he was really becoming more and more disillusioned with this idea that someone would come in, he would treat the symptom, send them on their way, 2 months later, a month later, 6 months later, they're back in with the same thing, starting all over again. And so he really was a very curious man and started to really look into and research the emotional components of our physical dis-ease and what was going on with people emotionally. And then from there, he was also a botanist and very into herbals and plants and whatnot. And from there, he started, sorry, I'm trying not to turn my back. He started, he actually ended up quitting his very lucrative practice and buying an estate out in the middle of nowhere in the country and buying and growing flowers and different species and understanding what I think of as the frequency of flowers. Now, everyone in this room, I'm sure, understands when I say frequency. You guys are in the advanced class because of what I saw. I saw this. I know. So, like Ruth was saying, my husband is an acupuncturist. He works with the body's frequencies to help the body bring itself back into balance, right? So Dr. Bach was looking to do the same thing with these flowers. Each flower, he realized, has a frequency. Just like each organ in your body, the hair on your head, your eyeballs, your skin, we have a frequency. And so if you take two frequencies that are compatible, right, so if you take a tuning fork in the family of C and you strike it and it's shaking, and now you bring in, say, a G sharp, they're going to repel off of each other. Those frequencies are not harmonious. They're not going to help each other. They're actually going to end up causing pain to you if you keep trying to do that. If you pick up a tuning fork that's also in the family of C, This one is already vibrating its frequency. The second this gets within range, it picks it up as well. And now we have two beautiful C notes that are, in harmony and in frequency. It's the same idea with the flowers. It's the same idea with dowsing. It's the same idea with acupuncture, with massage therapy, with meditation, with forest bathing, which is my new favorite thing. I didn't know that was the thing. You don't get, you're fully clothed. It's okay. I was worried about
Not in
that.
Dawson County, they ain't.
Oh! I'm going to write that. Where's that?
It's called Hidden Valley Nudist
Oh,
Resort.
dear. Okay, I'm going to
And
probably
they don't wear
not.
clothes up there either.
Oh, no. Gosh. That
It's in
sounds
the woods,
dangerous.
too.
I don't want to be in the woods. That sounds very dangerous. I've seen these mosquitoes up here. Right? So this is Dr. Bach. So by 1934, he had created the 38 Bach Flower Remedies that you see in my little kit right here. And each one has a unique frequency, and we're going to go through each one of them and help you understand the subtleties of them and what they're used for, okay? And then how the blends come together, okay? Yes, ma'am.
Can I add something?
Of course.
I think Dr. Bach was a genius, and of course he would have been in First Georgia Dowsers if he had lived here.
Oh, of course.
He was so sensitive to energies. He could, if he took a flower and floated it in a crystal ball in pure water in the sunlight, which is how he made the remedies, and then took one drop and put it on his tongue, he could feel what it would do.
Mm-hmm.
That's how sensitive he was.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't just guessing at all this.
Oh, no,
He
no,
knew.
no. No, and it wasn't even, this is where Brian and I come together, right? Because yes, there's science behind this, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to talk about that. That's not my jam. There is an energy to this. There is an emotion to this. And so he was able to use all sides, right? He was using his right brain, he was using his left brain, and he was using his energetic brain and his spirituality, which is just, and I think that combination is what makes them so gently powerful, because they are very powerful, but they're so gentle. And it's just such a nice, easy transition, as opposed to some things, you'll try something and you'll be like, blah, or I have a terrible headache, or I'm detoxing. Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference between Bach flower and homeopathic remedies?
Well, that's a great question. So the homeopathic remedies usually are the actual, and this is more of a Brian question than a Jennifer question. This is a science thing. But most of the time, a homeopathic remedy is pieces of the thing that, so let's say you have an allergy, and you're taking a homeopathic remedy for a pollen allergy. There are certain types of pollen in that remedy, right? So it's the same concept with pharmaceutical vaccinations. It's a live virus inside those vaccines. So it's a lot of other things inside that vaccine as well, but in a homeopathic remedy, it's particles and molecules of the actual issue that you're trying to remedy. Okay, where the flowers it's the essence of the actual, and I have pictures when we go through. You'll see like the leaf and the flower and the stem and the, all of those things. Okay. Okay. So, there are no contraindications with Bach flowers. They are completely safe for adults, children, all four of them. I have two batches of children. I have a 27-year-old and a 28-year-old and a 26-year-old, and now I have grandbabies. And then I also have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. All four of them, I started taking them right after Sarah was born in 1990, and all four of my children have grown up on Bach flowers. My dog gets Bach flowers. Oh yes, she does, because she's 3 and she's something. Let me tell you, she's the worst kid I have. She's a handful. My husband gets Bach flowers. Absolutely, he doesn't think he needs them. You know what I'm saying. They are completely safe during pregnancy and breastfeeding. I honestly think it's what kept my oldest daughter sane during this last pregnancy, because she was a little, cray-cray is what they call it, yep. There are no adverse drug interactions or effect. They are portable. I almost always have 1 or 2, at least my blend, if not a rescue remedy, which I'll talk about too, in my bag, in my car. I put them in my children's backpacks, the rescue remedy, to take to school. The Rescue Remedy is a blend, a pre-made blend that you can buy at Whole Foods and at most health food stores locally. As far as I'm sorry?
Even CVS for rescue.
What? You're kidding! I never go into a CVS. That's great.
I mean, that was years ago. I saw that like the flip. So I'm
Oh
sure
my
they still have
goodness. So Rescue Remedy is a pre-made blend. They make an adult version, which all that means is that it is preserved with alcohol, usually brandy or vodka, like these blends, or the children's blend, which is preserved with vegetable glycerin, which is what I use when I make the blends, because I work with alcoholics and recovering drug addicts, so I use vegetable glycerin. Rescue Remedy is for when, you know, when you almost have a car accident and everything goes, Rescue Remedy goes, it's okay, you're safe. It's okay, you're safe. So I send those bottles with my children to school. My 8-year-old has a lot of anxiety, so it helps her focus, it helps her stay calm. So the Rescue Remedy you can pick up pretty much anywhere. I think the full-size bottles are around $20, and I think the kids are about 10 to 12. You cannot overdose on them. My little Leo, 6-year-old, chugs the bottle. Okay, this is not one of those places where more is more, okay? It just, we're going to talk about the dosing. Taking more is not going to help you feel better faster. That's just not how it works. It's a frequency. It's going to take a second. You take it in the dosing that are required. The blend should last you about a month if you take it regularly. Chugging the bottle, Griffin, does not help you. He's very aggressive. It stimulates the body's innate ability to heal itself physically and emotionally and spiritually and energetically on all levels. And it supports psychotherapy. So for all the years, I think it's been 20-something years I've been working in this field, in the psychotherapy field, I have been prescribing these for as long as I can remember, since the beginning, really. It's so supportive, it's so gentle, it's so easy, it's just there's such a wonderful support tool for people who are going through any kind of trauma or transition or stress or life, any of those. It treats the individual and not just the dis-ease. And I say this about acupuncture and other types of energy work as well, whether it's pranic healing, which is so amazing, or Reiki, or quantum touch, any of those things, acupuncture, massage therapy. We want to focus on the root. In our society, we tend to focus on the symptom. And everything is very compartmentalized in this society, in Western society, as far as the medical community goes. So if I have a stomach upset, I go see a gastrointestinal. And then if I have a headache, I go see a migraine specialist or a neurologist. And then my toe hurts, so I go see a podiatrist. And so we have all of these compartmentalized sections, and we forget that they're all connected. The headache is connected to the toe pain. The head and shoulders, knees and toes, right? There was a song, the shin bone's connected to the thing.
You're not that old.
I am. Yes, I am. Really, I'm a grandmother.
You have a license for that?
I don't. I'm off the grid. So what we really want to understand and what we want to help our body do is to heal the root. To heal the root, we want to know why. Why do I keep getting headaches chronically? Why do I always have this left knee pain? Why am I constantly, my jaw hurts or my shoulder or my digestive system is a hot mess, right? We want to know why. That's the beauty of this medicine, right? It treats the whole body and the spirit all at the same time. Okay, ready to jump in? We're going to start with agrimony. So agrimony I give to my 8-year-old, and I also take it in my blend. Agrimony is a wonderful little flower that helps with those people who put on a very happy face. My entire life, my mother told me to smile pretty. That was the only emotion that I was allowed to have, me and my sisters. Just smile pretty. Just smile pretty. That's all. So I learned from a very young age to put on a happy face and to squish down every other emotion that I had. And for a long time, that translated for me into alcoholism. I drank away every feeling that I ever had that wasn't smell pretty. And I did that for years. So agrimony is this beautiful flower that helps those of us who are very good at, in public and in front of people, even the people that are closest to us, I'm fine, everything's great, don't you worry, how can I help you? Really, I'm smiling pretty, it's all great, don't you worry about a thing, right? And then masking that, in a lot of cases, with food or drugs or alcohol or shopping or working, you know, all of our little lovely addictions that we all have at least one, you know. Some of them are healthier than others. You know, like if you work 80 hours a week now, that's a great thing. Everyone's like, oh, you're so great, that's wonderful. But in my line of work, that's considered an addiction. That's still unhealthy, right? There's an imbalance there. So that's what agrimony does. Agrimony also does not like being alone. This is my daughter. She's like stuck to me like glue. I go, her and the dog, they both get agrimony. They follow me around everywhere I go. It's hard for agrimony folks to be alone. Because when they're alone, there's no smiling pretty. There's no one to smile pretty for. And then the feelings start to bubble up. And then they're not sure what to do with that, and that's uncomfortable. So this is an agrimony characterization. I'm going to do this one. I'll break my neck here. Agrimony, and I chose the things that I put up here on purpose. Some of these kind of overlap, and you'll notice as we go through. So I'm very specific about how I differentiate between them. Agrimony folks suffer their worries in silence. They do not talk about their problems with anyone. Maybe one very close person, but usually even that, it's very difficult for an agrimony personality to speak or share the depths of what is going on with them, their worries, their fears, their sadness, their grief, right? Their fear. So they hold it in. And 9 times out of 10, an agrimony personality will suffer from insomnia. Because what happens at night when they lay down and the lights go off, now they're alone, there's no one to, I call it the dancing bear in the cheerleading costume. That was how I lived my life for years. Everything's great! Everything's great! And inside I was completely falling apart, right? So at night when the lights go out, there's no one to perform for, and you're left with your own stuff. And I call it spin the Rolodex of worries, right? So it's 2 a.m., here I am, and what's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? What's it gonna, oh, yay! I'm gonna worry about my dad. Great, okay, super. So I lay there and worry about my dad, right? So it's very much an agrimony personality. Okay, any questions about agrimony? Okay. Do I have any agrimonies in this room? You don't have to, I'm just kidding. It's private, then. So we'll talk about aspen, and then later on in the M's, we'll talk about mimulus. They're both for fear, okay? Aspen, this beautiful, I love this, I think it's so pretty, is from fear to peace, right? So aspen is fears of the unknown, where mimulus is known fears. Aspen is unknown fears. Vague, I call it the undercurrent of anxiety. I don't really know what I'm worried about specifically, but I'm worried about it. You can guarantee that. Oh, I'm worried. Oh yeah, I'm definitely worried about it. Panic attacks. I walked into a Walmart one time. I probably should be taking all of these now. When I teach these classes, I'm like, gosh, I had some issues. I'm better now mostly, but I walked into a Walmart one time. My first batch of kids were little. They were like 1 and 2. And I had a full-blown panic attack. I thought I was dying. I picked one kid up under each arm and running out of the store and sat in the car. That's an app. There was nothing wrong, other than I was in Walmart, which was upsetting anyway. But there was nothing. It wasn't like a spider crawled in front of me or someone was chasing me. I just had some random panic, huge anxiety, sudden onset anxiety too, right? Ah la 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 la, everything's fine, holy moly, feeling like the other shoe is going to drop. Something really terrible is about to happen. I just know it. I don't know what it is, but I know something terrible is coming. Fear of the future. That belief that something terrible is just about to happen, that other shoe. Night terrors, and then that other shoe to drop. Okay? Aspen is unknown fears. Okay? Beach. My husband goes this way. This is Brian's. This is a close, actually both Griffin and my son and Brian both get vine and beach. They are very opinionated, and they both believe that it is their way or the highway. Brian's better now that he's getting older, but holy moly, for a while there. Highly sensitive to criticism. Absolutely cannot take criticism. You know, like, hey, you know, could you please close the cabinet door? I'm about to close the cabinet door! I can't do anything right! What is wrong with you? Why are you always on to me all the time? Oh, okay. Have you taken your Bach flowers today, by chance? Can I IV that into you? Is that a thing? Am I allowed to just shoot that into you? Refuses to admit mistakes. Arrogant and blind to their own shortcomings. That's my little Leo. He does nothing wrong. Finds fault. Finds fault with everything and everyone. You know, it's like no matter what's going on, and we all know these people. This is why I love these two, because as we go through these, it's like, oh no, that is, yeah. And then you can start telling people, you know, there's a flower for that. There really is. There's a flower for that. It'll help you so much. And it's soft. It's not like my little 8 and 6-year-old or my husband. They're not cured from these behaviors. These are behavior patterns. These are behavior programming and patterns, right? It's not that this is going to magically cure it in a week, but it softens it. It makes it easier, because it doesn't feel good to be in this space. It doesn't feel good to be hypersensitive to someone, you know, pointing out something that you could improve upon. That doesn't feel good. That creates its own anxiety. It doesn't feel good to not be able to have compassion for others, right? Because you have no compassion for yourself. That doesn't feel good. So the Bach flowers just help soften it a little bit and bring it more to the forefront. And Brian will catch himself. Now, my husband, he'll, you know, start to criticize something, or, you know, whatever it is, find fault with, you know, whatever. Like, I'll make dinner and, you know, he'll be like, oh yeah, this is so good. This is really good. You know, you could have added some more garlic to, and then partly it's my face, like, really, really. And partly it's, you know, he's more aware of things now, and he'll go, you know what? It's perfect. It's amazing. You're the best. And I'm like, I know. Thank you. Thank you. I know. Sarcastic and passive aggressive. The negative outlook too, right? Like, my kids go to elementary school and they have the field day. You know, it's like they have races and egg carries and they do all these competitions, you know. And it got canceled because it rained that day, so they rescheduled it to May 10th. And so I said, oh, you know, next Friday is field day again. Oh, it's probably going to get canceled again. I'm like, have you taken your Bach flowers today? Maybe you should think about that. Centauri. Oh, yes. Centauri. This was me in a former life, too, before I learned how to set boundaries. That's another class that I teach, boundary setting. So Centauri is for those who say a lot of times, I don't understand why people keep doing this to me. Why does this keep happening to me? I am a doormat. I cannot say no. I have no boundaries. I am weak-willed. If someone tries to push me or make me feel guilty or guilt me into babysitting their pet tarantula, I will always say yes, because otherwise I feel like a horrible person. I'm a very bad human. So this is Centauri. They find it impossible to say no. Very codependent in our relationships, right? Smiling and sweet on the outside and seething and rageful on the inside. We all know those people. We all know those people. This sometimes can go hand in hand with agrimony. Although agrimony folks tend to drink or eat or, you know, party their feelings away, where Centauri people tend to really just hold on to it, and just, you can just feel the, like, the rage coming out from them while they're like, yes, of course I'll babysit your pet tarantula. Why wouldn't I do that? Of course, yes, sure, right? And they find it extremely difficult to express their own wants and needs. In other words, the martyr personality type. I will sacrifice myself for you because I have to. And I will smile about it, but I would really like to stab you in the face with a fork. Centauri. And once again, you know, one of the things, again, that I love about these flowers, it's not that taking the, you know, Centauri, all of a sudden you're like, no, I have boundaries, I am strong, I will not babysit your pet tarantula. It's not that it does that immediately, but it softens these things. It helps us just sort of gently roll through so that we can then, with help from outside or guidance from our, you know, mentor or our therapist or our friends or family, learn how to shift our behavior and learn how to set the boundaries, right? It just makes it a little easier. Okay, y'all jump in if you have any questions now. Serrato. I love this flower. Isn't that pretty? There's flowers that grow in Georgia that look just like this. It's not, I looked at it, it's not the same thing, but they look almost just like it. That really pretty, like periwinkle. Oh, they're so pretty. Serrato is someone who has a very difficult time trusting their own judgment. Trusting their, and also if you like, I see you guys taking pictures of these. I can email this presentation to Ruth. Really? And then you can share it with the group, of course.
Oh,
of course,
great.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. So Serrato are people who, they lack belief in themselves, esteem, right? So if they're like, I think I'm going to wear the red shoes, and then someone goes, oh, okay. They're like, oh, should I not wear the red shoes? You don't like the red shoes. The red shoes make me look fat. Is that what it is? Oh, gosh. No, maybe I'm dumb. I shouldn't wear the red shoes. Constantly seeking advice from other people. This inability to make a decision and stick with it, right? Needing that affirmation, that confirmation from anyone and any person and anything who will listen to them, right? Just this constant stream of, it's the person in the grocery store who's like, should I get 80-20 ground beef or is 90-10? What do you think? Help me, help, right? That's Serrato. More codependent relationships. And I use this in my practice. I say this all the time. There truly is nothing or no one out there, right, who can help us be happy, who can make us happy, who can make us feel whole and solid and feel as though we have self-worth. Out there, that does not exist. There is no such thing. We do this for ourselves. And a Serrato person struggles with this concept desperately and is constantly seeking, because their own self-worth is so shaky because of situations or their childhood or, you know, failures or whatever, you know, it doesn't really matter the why. They're constantly seeking outside, something and someone out there to help them feel better about themselves. And then they're constantly disappointed because filling that hole within ourselves is not something that we can have provided by another human being, unfortunately. I tried for years. It doesn't work. Serrato. Let's see, did I hit them all? Yeah. Oh, and the lost identity. Really feeling as though they don't know who they're... Have you guys talked, do you know chakras? Have you guys done chakra work? Yes. Gosh, I love you guys so much. This is the third chakra. Second and third chakra flower. The sense of loss of identity. I don't really know who I am. I'm a chameleon. If I'm with these friends and they like to do these things, then I like to do those things, right? I think. Yeah, I don't know. If I'm with these friends and they don't like those things, but they really like these things, I like that. I don't like that. I like this, right? Right? So it's this loss of identity. I'm just not really sure who I am, what I stand for, what I like, what I don't like. Have you seen, what was the name of that movie with Julia Roberts? The Runaway Bride. Mm-hmm. And in that movie, she's engaged like some ridiculous amount of times, right? She's almost gotten married a bunch of times, and she always runs away from the altar. And one of the things, there's Richard Gere is the reporter, and he comes to interview her, and he says, how do you like your eggs? And what he comes to find out, he picks up this thread, that every guy that she's ever dated or been engaged to, she likes the way that he likes his eggs. So I liked them poached when I was dating Mike, and I liked them scrambled when I was dating Jim, and I liked them over easy when I can't think of any more ways to do eggs, but you get it, right? So she morphed her likes and dislikes based on with whom she was dating or engaged to be married to at that time. And at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, she she's not dating anyone, good for her, and she goes and she makes every different kind of egg, and she tastes all of them, and she realizes she actually really likes whatever kind, I don't remember, like hollandaise, I don't remember what kind, but that's that's definitely a Serato trait. Right, so when I saw that movie, I was like, oh, there's a flower for that. That would help you. That would help her. But I'm so proud of her for doing that. She finally figured out what kind of eggs she likes. Right? Finding her identity in her eggs. Oh, cherry plum. Cherry plum, cherry plum. This is a good one. Cherry plum is for those folks who feel as though they are about to lose their minds at any moment. At any moment, I'm going to start screaming, and I'm never going to stop screaming, ever. That there's this feeling of being on the brink of a complete and total meltdown. Just absolutely, you've seen a 2-year-old have a temper tantrum, right? It's having that feeling, like I am about to completely lose control and throw myself on the ground, gently because I don't want to hurt myself, and kick and scream and spit and just have a huge temper tantrum. That's a cherry plum personality type. This is, a lot of times, this is situational. Some of it.
Gets too low.
What? Oh,
When
yes.
that blood sugar gets
That's right, yes. That's hangry. That's called hangry. Teach you all the cool language. I learned this from my kids, I don't really. So someone who's on edge, very snappy.
So it can be like a transient.
It can be, yes, yes. This one is definitely can be situational. There are times in our lives when we're under a lot of external pressure or we're in huge transition, which walnut will help with, and we'll talk about that later, that we just feel like I want to stab someone in the face with a fork. I have definitely felt that way many times in my life. I haven't yet, because there's a flower for that. So this is what I do when I do blends is I'll check in with people. Like for a perfect example, I had we have a patient who Brian is helping her wean off of her medication, high blood pressure medication, thyroid medication, and some fibromyalgia issues. So she's weaning off her medication, and she's in a big transition right now. So she texted me and said, I'm having a really hard time. Do you think we should alter my Bach Flower prescription? And I glanced at her prescription and I see what she's already taking, and at that moment I was able to say, you know what, you've already got cherry plum, you've already got walnut for transition, you've already got, you know, all the things that are in place, and I said, I think you're going to be okay. Let's write it out. If you're still feeling like you're going to lose your mind, on Monday, call me and then we'll talk about it again. But for now, you're okay. But this situations like this, feeling like a ticking time bomb, feeling like you're at any moment, you're just going to like it takes every ounce of energy that you have not to punch people or ram them with your car. That situation, that would be fun. Seriously, that would be fun. Yes, it would. Thought about that with my ex-husband 1 or 2 times. When I stopped smiling for you. Oh my gosh. Physically, when it's a chronic personality, it's migraines and fibromyalgia. Cherry plum personality traits manifest as migraines and headaches and fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia, by the way, just side note, translates to mystery muscle pain. It means they have no idea what's wrong, but they gave it a fancy big name because now they can write you a prescription to fix it. Not really, but this is a cherry plum trait. Because what happens is we're spending all this time going like this so that we don't kill people. And then our body is like, ow, stop. Okay, that's cherry plum. feeling like a ticking time bomb, frequent thoughts of doing harm to self or to others. Now this is actually a therapeutic tool that I use with my clients to help them. We actually fantasize about how they would, push someone off the bridge or, hit them with a baseball bat. That's actually, what? What?
Throw 'em out the window.
Yes, throw them out the window, throw them off the mountain when you're up there at the top, just a little, that's actually a very therapeutic thing. But when it becomes chronic over a long period of time and it's not done maybe under a therapeutic setting with guidance, it might be something that there's a flower for. And then afraid that people will see their true selves. This one is when we combine this with agrimony. For people who present one way to the world with their smile, but inside are feeling like they're going to lose their minds any second, right? That's a nice cherry plum agrimony combination. That's a nice blend. Feeling afraid that people are going to be like, oh my gosh, you're faking. I always say too, it's like, feel like that feeling that everybody else got the instruction manual on how to be like a functioning human and you didn't. And so you're just sort of winging it. And you're just terrified all the time that you're going to completely lose your mind.
Some of the angels didn't get the manual.
That's right. That's right. Cherry plum. There's a flower for that. Fear of going off the deep end and behaving inappropriately. It's my 6-year-old's favorite word. That is inappropriate! Okay. Goodness. I don't know where he learned that. I can't even imagine. Chestnut bud. My husband gets this and my 8-year-old gets this. So chestnut bud, a lot of times these folks are diagnosed with a learning disability, right? That they, bless you. A lot of times this will present itself as ADD or ADHD type behaviors. Like my daughter could not, I say in the past because now she does, could not sit still to do anything. Sit down to do her homework, she's rolling on the floor, she's spinning around, she forgets what she's doing, she does number 7, and then she does number 14, and then she's like, Q! And she's just like all over the place. The kid is brilliant, but she's total space cadet, like all over the place, constantly moving. Now, if I had taken her to a traditional Western medical doctor, they would have diagnosed her with ADD or ADHD, and they would have stuck her on Adderall or some other god-awful drug, and she would have been a zombie. In our life, we altered her Bach flowers as we saw this coming down the pike, and Brian altered her acupuncture points that he was using. And now, I just did a post on our business page on Instagram last week, or 2 weeks ago, she sits, and she reads, and she focuses, and she is calm. That is very much a chestnut bud trait. Having difficulty concentrating, wicked smart, but just, doesn't care. Just, oh, I'm busy. Like, I'm out. It's the kid on the soccer field that's like, everyone else is chasing the ball and he's like playing with like the ladybugs and the, that's chestnut bud. Sort of in this fog. And a lot of times people will tell them like, oh, like I just said, you're a space cadet, you're ditzy, you're an airhead. You have a question?
Yeah, the inability to focus.
Yes, absolutely. The inability to focus. Something that a traditional Western medical doctor would say, that's ADD. It's the flavor of the week right now.
Also sequencing problems.
Correct. Yes. Correct. Absolutely. It's also getting stuck in behavior patterns, right? Getting stuck in behavior patterns. Like my daughter would take something, she loves crystals and rocks, and we have them all over the place. So she would take her very favorite one to school and then let one of her friends borrow it and then never get it back, and then she was devastated and angry and all these things. And she was doing this like daily. And I'm like, there's a flower for that. Let's do that. So it's sort of like it's not the inability. It appears as though it is the inability to learn from past mistakes. And I see that in my practice with grown-up humans as relationship patterns. I keep getting stuck in the same, why do I keep dating the same jerk? Why do I keep having the same friends who take advantage of me? Why? Yeah, so there's blends there, obviously, but that's a chestnut bud issue.
Neptune and Mercury had it out.
Yes! Yes. That's right. Gosh, I like it.
Mine are conjunct, so I recognize it.
Yes.
Next to my moon and sun, too.
So what's your sun? No, I'm nosy.
Libra.
Oh.
Makes it worse all over the
That's
place.
why you're so pretty, though.
You have my sympathy, right?
No, I love Libras, but it's so scleranthus. I can already tell you. See, and I do these based on astrological signs. So I can already tell you that scleranthus, when we get to scleranthus, will be a fabulous flower for you, because Libras like scleranthus. Yeah. And where's your moon?
All 4 of those are in the 11th house.
Oh dear. Well, that's very auspicious, though. That's auspicious. That's wonderful. That's a good thing.
Not if the Mars and Jupiter are in Scorpio in the 12th house.
Oh, but see, those things get a bad rap. I love the 12th house, and I love Scorpio in the 12th house. Yes, ma'am.
With Venus.
Oh.
I'm just saying thank you.
Oh, yeah, I do. I love Scorpio. I think it's all about boundaries. Okay, we'll do astrology on a different day. I'll get on that train. We'll be here for days. Okay, I'm focusing, Ruth. Ruth has her eye on me.
Thank you.
Procrastination to the extreme. We all procrastinate. I'm a Sagittarius. I procrastinate to the end. However, it's procrastination to the extreme, where then they're super upset, spinning around, freaking out. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Lack of follow through. Oh, this is Brian right here. Start many projects with energy and enthusiasm, and then suddenly they just fade away. Have you taken your Bach flowers today? Have you seen the garage? Ay, you're killing me. He'll start to mow the lawn, come inside to get a drink of water, and then go build a planter. I'm like, but there's a flower for that. He swears he does not need this one. This is one of those ones where he fought me over this. So I just put it in his wand and don't tell him that it's there, because he swears to me this is not him. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Have plans for multiple projects at once, but rarely finish anything, including books. Those people who start the book and then just don't finish it and put it down, right? And it's not that that's a horrible thing, right? But sometimes you might want to know what happened, right? That's chestnut bud. Love chestnut bud. Oh, Brian. Goodness. It's fun when he's here when I do these classes. Okay, chicory. Chicory is my mother-in-law. So, I know, isn't it? I love chicory. So this is my mother-in-law. This is another martyr flower. Chicory needs their people to be around them at all times. They need to know where they are, what they're doing. They have the tracker on the phone. Did you know there's a thing that you can track people from their phone? So you can, she can't use the phone, but she figured out how to put a tracker on one of her son's phones. So that was, where there's a will, there's a way. That overprotective, very possessive of their loved ones, passive-aggressive, and not in a malicious, terrible, she's a wonderful, loving, amazing woman. And she needs this flower very much. It's conditional love, right? As long as you do all the things that I want you to do, then we're fine. But if you don't, then I'm going to be extremely passive-aggressive and annoy the crap out of you until you do what I want you to do, because I want you to do what I want you to do. It's very important to me. Don't you love me? You just don't love me. It's fine. I'll just die alone in my chair by myself without you. It's fine. You know you were 9 pounds at birth, but that's okay. I'll just sit here by myself. It's fine. You know, you go do what you need to do. It's fine. I'll be fine. Okay, so this is chicory. What?
Controlling,
Oh, yes.
martyr.
Yes. You know this flower? An exaggerated desire for attention, especially with one's children and grandchildren. Sacrifices one's own needs. You see, there's a theme here. You can sort of see the ones that sort of build on each other, right? Sacrificing their own needs for the good of others. Worrying incessantly about other people. like holy moly, that's that Rolodex thing in the middle of the night. Only chicory people, it's 24/7, and it'll be like she called me one time and she's like, oh my gosh, Michelle's pregnant, but she doesn't look very good. And I'm like, who the hell's Michelle? I'm like, okay, Michelle. And I said, Nora, who's Michelle? And she's like, the woman from the Winter Park Dodge commercials. She works there. It's on in between Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. She's pregnant, but she does not look very good. What should we do? I'm like, that's a really loaded question. Are you asking me professionally or personally? Because it's two different answers. Okay, worry, right? Incessantly about other people that they don't even know. Oh, it's so tiring for her. And also easily insulted. That goes along with beach, right? Where it's like, well, just that. Like, come over for lunch. Oh, I'm working. Oh, you don't like my chicken salad? You never liked my chicken salad. Okay, all right, that's cool.
She's a Jewish mother.
Catholic, but close enough. Same difference. Same difference. Worse cooking. Same difference, worse cooking. Clematis. Clematis is this dream state, right? Clematis is Neptune, for those of you who follow astrology. Neptune is this very dreamy, and by the way, just side note, Neptune is in Pisces right now, and it is, so your dreams are going to be a doozy. Write them down. It's going to be something right now. Clematis is this very daydreamy, head in the clouds, not grounded, all up here or over here out of their body, withdrawing from people because they're so busy in whatever fantasy land they see. I see this a lot when people start playing video games to an extreme, and they just sort of lose themselves in that fantasy world, right? It doesn't have to be video games, but I do see that a lot in my practice with the younger, the 20-somethings. It just consumes them. And because now they can play video games with other people, but it's all online with a headset, so they're actually, they can read what they say, or they can sometimes hear them depending on the game, that becomes their entire world. And you don't ever see their eyeballs, ever. This is clematis. Mentally absent, drowsy, or confused, floating through life with no real interest or passion other than video games. It's not always video games. Going through life on autopilot or in a trance. And we've all done that, where you show up, you get to the store, and you're like, wow, I have no memory of driving here. That's unfortunate. We all do that sometimes because we're busy, we're up in our heads, right? But it's this, the clematis is when it becomes a chronic.
And it's a shock to interrupt them. They don't like being interrupted.
Right, exactly.
It's a shock to come back into the body suddenly like
yes,
that.
it is.
It's not pleasant.
It's astral travel during the day. Conscious.
I know about that.
Consciously, yes. Without intention. Without intention. And in another world, or dreaming about the future. So clematis is sort of that always like, when this happens, then I'll. When I do this, then I'll. Then I can be happy, then I can be present, then I can be, successful, whatever it is. It's the future tense, right? Where honeysuckle is the past tense, living in the past. We'll get there in a minute. Okay, I'm cruising. Okay, yeah. Crabapple. Crabapple in the original sense, I think, was for folks who are what we would now call germaphobes. Feeling as though they are unclean, their surroundings are unclean, people that refuse to use a public bathroom, always with the hand sanitizer, don't shake hands. There was somebody, Howie Mandel or something, I think, who was like that. He couldn't touch other people or whatever. That was in its original sense. I think that's where crabapple sort of blossomed from.
Monk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Monk. Yes, that's right. Gosh, I remember that show. Yeah. It's sort of evolved as we have evolved, right? And so it's also, I use it for people who have eating disorders or body dysmorphia. So for the, yes?
Virgo, on the negative side.
Yes, yeah, exactly. The negative archetype of Virgo. Absolutely, yes. Also Capricorn can do this. Capricorn in the negative can be this.
Did you say that you mean on purpose? I'm Capricorn.
Oh, are you really? Oh, that's funny. No, but there you go. Somebody did. Somebody said it.
Really, you know, but I was joking, but I mean, now I'm Capricorn.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. It's usually Capricorn men, though,
Okay.
in that sense, in my experience. But
But you brought the colloidal silver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a health fanatic. So.
Well, yeah. There you go. There's a flower. That too. Only if it's an imbalance. But I use crabapple for people who are obsessive compulsive, who have, like I said, the body dysmorphia, where they could weigh 60 pounds and they look in the mirror and they see 300, and vice versa, 300 and they look in the mirror and they see 100, right? No matter what size they are, they cannot see the reality of that. I use it for poor self-image along with larch, which is for self-confidence. A sense of just not being clean, whether that's I don't look good enough, I'll never look good enough, or I literally am unclean. It can also be sexual dysfunction. Setting high unattainable goals for themselves and then punishing themselves because they failed. You know, so they'll set the bar, they'll actually get to the bar and then go, oh, just kidding, I meant here. And so it's this never-ending cycle of I am never, ever good enough. I will never, ever be good enough. That's crabapple. Eating, cleaning, and sexual disorders. Excessive aversion to anything unclean, right? So bugs, or if someone's sick, or I mean, I don't want to be around sick people either, but it's to an extreme, right? Sex, self-disgust, perfectionism, that harsh critical inner voice that plays. And a lot of times this does apply more to women than men. However, I am seeing more and more and more men in my practice reporting with these symptoms. So and I honestly blame social media. And I know that I am of a certain age, time.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're concerned that at this rate, we're not gonna get through the whole.
Okay, here we go.
Maybe we could,
I'm going to speed through.
yes.
Elm.
Speed it up.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, you got about almost an hour, but
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Flower for that.
There is
Yeah,
a
there's
flower
a
for
flower.
that. Yes, there is. Elm, for talking too much. Elm is feeling completely overwhelmed, just despondent. I can't do anything. I am completely exhausted. A lot of times this is also situational, right? Temporarily losing all confidence. A lot of times this happens before a test. I have a lawyer who had to take the bar, completely shut down. Just everything that he had studied for, he knew it, no problem. Right before the test, he completely froze. This is an elm, right? It's temporary. Feeling burnt out, unable to finish tasks, completely depleted. Elm. It's different from hornbeam, which we'll talk about in a minute. Gentian. For those people who are easily discouraged, who give up when faced with difficulties. Like the child who goes to, draw something and they start to draw it and then it just doesn't look like they want it to, and they rip the whole thing up and they won't do it again. That's gentian. Easily discouraged. The first response a lot of times is no, or I just can't do that. I can't do that. That might work for you, but that will never work for me. Giving up. Has Eeyore. This is my father-in-law, Gentian. He's Eeyore. That's what we call him. Everything, okay. That's Eeyore, right? Gloom and doom. Just expects all the bad things. Lacks endurance. Pessimistic. Gorse. Gorse is hopeless. Just feeling so hopeless that there's just no chance that there could ever be sunshine or anything good ever again. That is gorse. Despair. This one goes hand in hand with gentian. They're twinsies in a lot of ways. Gorse, though, is much more about I feel misunderstood personally, where gentian is everything is terrible in the whole world. Gorse is you think I'm terrible because I am terrible. I can't do anything right.
Everything is awful. Gorse is the victim. They feel misunderstood. They will try to better their situation, but only to prove to you that it's not going to work. I have a client like this right now. She's literally in therapy only because she wants to prove to her husband that she is incurable and that her depression will never go away. And they actually do. Gorse people actually do have difficult lives. It's almost like that frequency thing, right? The attraction thing, right? I put out all these terrible vibes and then these terrible things come back to me. So they actually do experience in reality terrible things. Yes, sir.
There's also a person who, however, whenever they're happy, they figure they've always been happy. Whenever they're sad, they've always been sad and will always be sad.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one of these two also?
Mm-hmm. That's so much more of the extreme thing, right? And a lot of times that's situational. It can be to where they are and who they're with.
So it could be either of these.
It could be either, correct, okay. Yes. Where Genshin is much more about remember Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh? Everywhere he went, there was just a cloud of rain on top of him, and it's just what happens to me. It's just what happens. Where Gorse is really, truly, bad things a lot of times happen to Gorse people because they've had a difficult life, and then because of the difficulties, they're just there's no chance. Why bother? I'll try it to prove to you that it's not going to work. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the middle child would fall.
Oh, yes. Brilliant. Love that, yes.
And how do limiting beliefs, like EFT type stuff,
Yes.
Relate to that?
Yes, very much so, right? Because what the EFT does is it's acupuncture points that take the zzz away from things. So EFT helps us change our story.
Well, I was thinking that if you believe that you're not good enough, that would fall into a lot of these things.
Yes.
If you get rid of the faulty belief, then it would be less, you wouldn't need that as much. And it would be permanent.
Yes, sometimes. It depends on the person. Because if it's a Gorse person, they're going to try EFT to show you that it didn't work. Right? So it's some people are much more committed to their belief system than they are to trying to feel better. And since Gorse is a victim personality, they are happier there. They're happy there. My mother was my mother was a Gorse. So she loved being sick and hurting and unhealthy and sad and miserable and all the bad things. And she had a really, really, really hard life, my mother did. But she had no intention. She started doing acupuncture with Brian because of her knee. And she went for 6 weeks and then she says, I'm not coming back. And I said, okay, why? And she goes, because I'm feeling too good. It feels too good. And I said, oh, right, you have to have something to complain about. There's a flower for that. She would not do it. That feeling misunderstood. So for someone to do EFT, and I love it, I use EFT all the time in my practice, but for someone to do that, they have to there has to be a hope, a true belief that, I will do this, I will commit myself to this, I want to get better, I want to feel better, and Gorse people have a really hard time with that. It's just hard for them. Okay, Heather, we're in the H's. Heather people are the ones in the doctor's waiting room who tell you their entire medical history, every single thing about them. They demand attention, right? Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Oh, you have a headache? Oh, you don't even know what a headache is. I had a headache so bad that, the whole world came to an end. That's a Heather personality. Self-absorbed, only talks of themselves. They have this abnormal need to latch onto someone and just vomit all of their things, right? Where earlier we talked about, and my brain just went blank, but agrimony. People who will not talk about their problems out loud. Heather is the opposite of this. Heather just loves to talk about all the terrible things that are going on with them and all the problems and all the bad things and all the things, right? Heather, hypochondriac, narcissistic behaviors, clingy and needy. My goodness. Yes, they're writing people's names down, aren't you? Isn't that fun, right? Because we all know these people, and now you can be like, oh, honey, there's a flower. You can take my cards, but you can't use them like that. Do not hand my cards out to Heather's, please. What?
Is it easier to identify other people than it is
Absolutely,
to
yes.
identify
That's
yourself?
why people come see me one-on-one. Because they'll come in and they'll be like, it's like the first time I read the book Codependent No More. And I was like, oh my God, I made all these notes for my sisters and my mom and my dad and my ex-husband and my kid. And my therapist was like, okay, I didn't give you the book to read for them. And I was like, really? Are you sure? Because, I mean, did you read the book? It's all my whole family. No, she made me read it again, like a lot. And then I still needed help finding my own issues. It's so much easier for us.
Okay.
We can, I do it now. I'm like, oh, this is my mother. This is, it's just easier. That's why people come in and do one-on-ones because, I'm good like that. Yes, ma'am.
Well, if we feel like we could use more than 7 of these.
No, so that's the other reason people come in, right? Because we have one extreme or the other. Either the ones that are like, this is everyone else in my life and nothing to do with me, or those of us who go, I need all of them. So when we do a one-on-one, we kind of sift through to figure out sort of what the ringing bells are, what the squeaky wheels are, and we layer things. So the blend is 7. We start with
You can't have two
foundation. No, you need to do one blend at a time. No, my little overachievers. No. No. No, I'm sorry. No. No. So the boundaries. See, now I have boundaries. No.
1 7 one day and the other 7
No.
the next.
No. It's inappropriate, as Griffin says. And they have this it's impossible for them to just like sit in the doctor's office and just like read, or they have to engage in a way, or the grocery store or whatever it is. Okay, so we know these people. Some of them are us. Holly is very angry. Holly is essentially those people who have temper tantrums, right? They are defensive. They are aggressive. They are jealous and suspicious. Those people where everyone is out to get them, right? Like they're driving and someone, does something dumb and they're like, they did that on purpose. Really? Like, do you know them? No. They did that on purpose just to piss me off. Wow, okay. Okay, there's a flower for that. Blaming other people, they refuse to take responsibility for their own stuff. They're quick to plan revenge. I have a client who has been planning revenge on an ex for, goodness, 25 years, maybe? He gets Holly. Now the other thing with Holly too is that the little things, like someone drives by outside with a loud engine and it backfires or something, they will lose their mind. Full-blown temper tantrum over this. Stomping, yelling, angry, it's just it's temper tantrums. Temper tantrums are 2-year-olds, it's rage. So we lose our adult, we go into a 2-year-old mode and have temper tantrums over things like, you can't get the right sippy cup or whatever. You wanted the blue sippy cup instead of the red sippy cup. This is a Holly personality type. A lot of times too, it'll show itself in acute and violent illnesses. So it'll build up, and they'll get like this violent coughing fit for no reason, or horrible headaches, or digestive things happening, fever too, overreacting to small things, a short fuse, always ready to blow. Okay. Honeysuckle. So where clematis lives in the future and is daydreaming all the time, honeysuckles live in the past, the glory days. It's very difficult for them to move forward and to do things with forethought because they're constantly comparing to the way things were. A lot of times what I see in my practice is that honeysuckles have had great loss. They've lost a spouse, they've lost a child, They've lost a job that was very important to them. They just can't move on. They just can't move forward. A lot of times it's just this, and like clematis, which is why, these subtle differences, they're just not there. They just don't really care. They don't really have a focus or a passion. They're just sad. And they have difficulty accepting the reality of the present. They would prefer to live in the past. And they believe that legitimately happiness is out of their grasp, that it's just not going to happen for them. Honeysuckle has a lot of grief. Hornbeam. I take this one, and not just because my last name is Hornburg, although it is kind of funny to me. Hornbeam is just feeling tired. So much. I wear 80,000 different hats. I have like 7 different jobs between my kids and my husband and the practice and my clients and all the things. We all do this, right? It's life. We have life. And sometimes I feel completely overwhelmed by all of that. Like I just can't get up. Like I just want to sit and stare at a wall for a while. Hornbeam helps me find the strength to just keep going. A lot of times, Hornbeam is when, like for example, we just signed a contract with the VA, which is amazing, and they are providing acupuncture at no charge to veterans, which we are thrilled about. So I know, it's wonderful, finally, right? But we're getting completely bombarded because some of these people have been waiting years to get an acupuncture appointment because there's hardly any acupuncturists in this state. So there's like 260 altogether. So my phone does not stop ringing, not stop ringing, not stop ringing. And then they're coming in, they're coming in, they're coming in. So I added Hornbeam last week to my blend because I can feel it. I can feel it weighing on me. I can feel it. It's like from the minute I get up at 5:30 to the minute I fall asleep at, 6 o'clock, just kidding, like 8. It's just, it doesn't stop, right? So this is situational. I probably don't need this all the time. I haven't used it for months, but right now I need it. It's the, oh my gosh, I know I have this huge list of things to do, but oh my gosh, I just don't think I can do it. I just don't want to. Once you start, it's fine. You got this. You're like, oh, this is not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But it's just getting started. That's hard. That's Hornbeam. Okay? Exhaustion. Impatience. Everyone in my family gets this. It's for impatience. It's in the name. Those who want everything done right now. The mind that works so quickly, right? That flips from one thing to the other. Go, 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 go. When someone is talking and they're like, so I was thinking. And they're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Spit it out, right? That's impatience. A lot of times they have road rage. They have the hunger thing. We see this all the time in our practice, all the time. People come in, they're like, I'm ravenous. There's a flower for that. Even though they just ate, right? It's just like all of a sudden their metabolism, their impatient metabolism kicks in, and they're just like, I can't stop eating. And it's like, okay, we'll give you a flower. Also, high blood pressure, elevated heart rate, and intestinal issues. These are all signs of a need for impatience. Slow down. It's okay. I need this one. I do this one. We're all fire signs in my house, except for my little Aquarius daughter. Larch. Larch is a staple, just like walnut. I consider larch and walnut to be staples. It's for self-confidence. It's just having, doubt about yourself, and I feel like all of us do that at some point or another, right? So most people in my practice get larch. As opposed to holly and, holly, where they feel jealous of other people and like other people are out to get them. Larch people, us, have actually great admiration for those who have succeeded or those who are doing things that we think are just amazing. We're like, wow, that's amazing. I wish I could do that. I'll never be able to do that, right? That's a larch trait. But just overall, it's self-confidence and not being afraid to just get out there and try it, so what? it's a so what flower, I call it, right? Just so what, it's okay, it'll be fine. I'll look silly, but who cares? The so what flower. Mimulus, where aspen was unknown fears, mimulus is known fears. I have a crippling fear of insert the thing. I'm afraid that people are going to break into the house. I'm afraid of spiders. I'm afraid of humans. I'm afraid of aliens. Whatever, cars. I have one client who's afraid of bridges. She cannot go over a bridge. We're getting there. There's a flower for that.
Computers, telephone.
Right, yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a real thing. People are really afraid of the telephone. That's a true phobia. They can text, but they don't like to talk on it. Okay. Mimulus a lot of times is nervous laughter, right? Feeling very uncomfortable. They keep their fears hidden. Like they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it because then it might come true, right? And a very anxious nature, sensitive to lights, noises, cold, and different environments. This is mimulus. Known fears, anxiety of known fears. Aspen is anxiety of unknown fears, just this vague undercurrent that something terrible is going to happen. Mimulus says, I know something terrible is going to happen because I can see the tornado and I'm terrified. Mustard. Mustard is a sudden onset of depression. Like, I call it going into the toilet bowl of despair. Just pew, and then swimming around in there. And you can't really put your finger on why. Nothing has really happened. Sometimes this is misdiagnosed as a bipolar disorder. It's also the flavor of the week right now. Bipolar and ADHD. It is typically recurring periods of depression. So the low of what they call bipolar, right? When you sink down, you just have no interest, you're completely depressed, you cannot, everything is gray, and it just happened from one day to the next. And then just as suddenly as it came upon you, it's gone. And you're like, oh, okay, I can go to the store now, I can do the things. It's mustard. Lack of appetite, sleep disturbances, vague symptoms, right? Just vague symptoms of depression. So if you go to the doctor and tell them your symptoms here, they will immediately put you on Prozac and Xanax and all your other pharmaceuticals. Or you could take a flower. Oak. Oak is the tax accountant in April who has worked himself to death and 24 hours a day and is just nonstop and can't just work. That's oak. When you are completely overworked and continues to work regardless. It's those people who don't stop to pee because they will not stop to do they just will hold their pee all day because they can't stop their work. It is. It's terrible. It's very bad physically and emotionally. Talk about holding things in, right? But that's oak. Absolutely stubborn. Oh, I said it. Won't stop to eat or go to the bathroom unless forced. Huh, I'm so good sometimes. Total workaholic, but also at the same time like despondent and exhausted. Like feeling like, oh, but I have to do it. It's like this compulsion. Oak. Okay? All right, we're on the O's. This is very exciting. Olive. Olive is just complete lack of energy. Fatigue, absolutely no reserve of strength, absolutely cannot function. Most of the time, we see this after a huge trauma. So after we've lost a job, after we've lost someone, after a divorce or an accident. They also appear physically to be very apathetic. They are pale, they are weak. All they want to do is sleep. They just don't want to get up at all. Literally feeling as though they have reached the end of their rope. Olive, a lot of times, is also situational. I don't know if I have ever seen this chronic. This could also be misdiagnosed as depression. Pine. Pine goes from acceptance or from guilt to acceptance. So pine people, everything is their fault. They know it. They feel guilt, they feel shame. Everything that happens is because of them. If you stood up and stubbed your toe right there, it would be my fault, because I don't know why. I can't think of a reason, because I'm not a pine person, but I'm sure it would be my fault if I was a pine person. Persistent feelings of inadequacy, self-judgment, unhappy just with everything about their lives, right? This feeling as though they must constantly punish themselves. I also see this in a lot of eating disorder patients. Patients with eating disorders, this pine. Going over and over and over previous interactions and conversations, worrying about what they said and how the other person took it, and if that person is mad, and if they should call them, and what if they run into them in the grocery store, and what will I say? Should I reach out? Should I apologize? And so then you get this random, like, 12-page text message that you have to scroll through 18 times where they're like, I'm so sorry that I said your shirt was teal instead of blue, and I know you got upset because blue's your favorite color, and I don't know what I was thinking, I didn't eat breakfast, and oh boy, okay. All right, settle down, Sparky. Apologizes needlessly and constantly. However, we are in the South, and that does happen a lot here. We are all trained to say I'm sorry over everything, right? You know, like, oh, that's $4, and then you hand $3. Oh, I said $4. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for talking so much. I'm so sorry for existing. I'm so sorry. Pine. Red chestnut. Red chestnut is projection, right? So taking my worries and fears and projecting them all over you. Like, I can't sleep tonight because I'm worried about all of you. Something terrible is going to happen. I just know it. This excessive concern for loved ones, this goes hand in hand with clematis, where they're like constant need to be around, like, you know, oh, whatever, just don't even bother coming over. You don't like my chicken salad. This is a very nice combination with red chestnut, because they do tend to work themselves sometimes into a frantic worry.
What?
A frantic worry.
Oh, red chestnut.
Red,
what?
clematis. Clematis. Yeah. My mother-in-law's blend. Nora's blend. I should just call it Nora's blend. Bless her heart. Terrified about worst case scenarios. Brian's 20 minutes late from getting home from work. He's dead. He's on the side of the road. He's been eaten by wolves, because we're in Georgia and it's god-awful here. That's what she says. She literally says that. She doesn't like the trees in Georgia because they're too tall. And they're going to fall over and kill someone. How does that not happen every day? I have not heard of this happening yet. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Loses sleep. Gosh, she never, this is so, bless her heart. It's exhausting. She won't take the flowers. So I sneak them into her water sometimes. I do. Because I'm a control freak. That's why. I wave that flag proudly. I'm in recovery. But it's not going well. Some days are better than others, you know. Rock rose. Rock rose is frozen with fear. Complete terror. So one time I came home from, when the first batch were little, and I was a single mom, I was divorced, and we lived in this cute little house, and it was pitch black dark, and my light was out, you know, my, what do they call it, porch light was out, and I had one kid in a thingy, and then the other kid, you know, and I'm trying to get my keys in, and it's like raining, and a tree frog, the size of my hand, jumped from the pitch black, it probably broke the bulb now that I think about it, and it jumped onto my face, like this, and it's a miracle I'm here right now, because I threw a kid this way, I fell backwards, my neighbors came out because I was screaming at the top of my lungs. That was very traumatic, you guys. It was very traumatic. I went in and took rock rose. I really did. I walked in and immediately took my rock rose. That was a trauma. It doesn't have to be quite like that, but a lot of times it is. It's PTSD, it's birth trauma. Yang energy is the masculine energy, right? Just an extreme panic, hysteria, tree frog on your face moment. Rock rose. It's an acute response to a severe threat. It's that adrenaline, the adrenaline rush. rock water. Rock water. You know, I did not put rock water on this list, did I? Well, how rude. You can write that down then. Rock water. You know why? It's so funny. I can never remember this one. It's fun. I was thinking that. I'm like, what the heck is rock water again? It's not even on here. I have a mental block. I must need it, maybe. Oh, controlling. That's me. Must do the right thing. This is rock water are people who are, like, does anyone, not to say anything negative about veganism, but there are those veganisms, there are those vegans, or there are religious folks or political folks, right, who just go hard in that, right? And everybody needs to eat the way that I do, and everybody needs to think the way that I do, and you have to stand for something. And social media is the worst about this because it is a platform for ugly. And it's just this like fervor, like an old-timey, you know, in the westerns, those kind of crazed preachers who would stand up there and yell at all the cowboys about going to hell and all that. You know, this is rock water. It's they deny themselves joy or pleasure because they're so fervent about getting their message across to everyone. You must listen. It's this urgency of settle down, Sparky. Wow, that's rock water.
Is there an or
Inflexible.
else in there also?
Say it again.
With some of those people, would there be an or else?
Yes, absolutely.
Or else you're
Yeah.
going to know.
Right, or else you're going to hell, or else you're going to die, or else, you know, you're dead to me, and I'll never speak to you again. And regardless of who you are to me, right? There's a fervor. Now, I have seen this happen acutely, sometimes after trauma, when somebody kind of just goes off the deep end, and a lot of times it's distraction from big feelings that have happened, you know. And so they kind of spin off into a rock water state. Like they didn't used to be like that, you know what I mean? Like you know people and you're like, what happened to you? You didn't used to be like that. You know, it's, a lot of times it could be because of a trauma.
Would some of the TV ministers fall into that category?
Absolutely, yeah. Now, they're also acting because they're making billions of dollars, right? And they like their private plane. So some of that is acting. But yeah, you know, it's the laying hands on and this, you know, all those things. You know, that's that fervor, and it tends to be around things like I see it a lot in vegans. I see it a lot in religious sects, and I see it in politics, especially these days, because social media. Not to harp on social media, but it is a platform for ugly. It really is. Unfortunately. Scleranthus, for my Libras in the room. Scleranthus folks sometimes have very difficult time making a decision, choosing between one or the other, right? It's like impossible. And a lot of times they'll freeze because they just can't decide. They see the benefit, the pro and con of all of it. And it's just so clear. It would be so great. Oh, but it would be so terrible. But this one would be so great, but this one would be so terrible. So they just sort of get stuck between the rock and the hard place and just can't make a decision. That's Scleranthus.
Trouble prioritizing.
Exactly, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, also people with Scleranthus tend to, well, they get easily distracted. And this is why, this is a very Libra trait, is the being able to see both sides very clearly. But a lot of times too, they can feel, physically feel dizzy and often like fall over a lot. Just feel, and you know, there's people that like sort of just ram into, you're like, there's a wall. There's a wall there. It's been there for 5 years. I'm not sure why. That's a Scleranthus person. And also pacing, manic pacing. And obsessive compulsive to checking to make sure the doors are locked, checking to make sure the alarm is set, checking to make sure the refrigerator is closed or the flat iron is off or whatever. Scleranthus. I love it when everybody starts nodding their head like, oh yeah, that one's me. Yeah. Star of Bethlehem. Star of Bethlehem is in the Rescue Remedy blend. It's very comforting. It's calming after a physical injury or an emotional trauma like having a tree frog jump on your face. It's fabulous after birth, before and after, during birth. for mother and baby. It's also very helpful. I use Star of Bethlehem. I had a client whose husband actually shot himself in front of her on her birthday. Somebody was feeling a little angry that day, he was. But that was huge trauma for her, right? And we had done EMDR, we had done EFT, we had done even like some hypnosis, we had done acupuncture, we had done, I mean, we had just tried everything, and she just couldn't come down. And that's when I went, oh duh, there's a flower for that. I should have started with the flower, and it would have made everything else a lot easier. So when other therapies are ineffective, an extreme yin state, right? Instead of the yang, the panic, the yin is shock. I've gone into shock. A lot of times it's, you know, after a car accident or the shock of news, right? So Star of Bethlehem is, it's similar to rock rose in that it is a trauma-based flower. So psychological and physical shock or trauma, where rock rose will help calm, Star of Bethlehem comforts to help sort of bring him back to the present a little bit. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. We're almost done. Okay. Sweet chestnut. Oh, sweet chestnut from despair. So, sweet chestnut is, again, a lot of times it's situational. This feeling of God has abandoned me. I have nothing. I have no one. I am in the toilet bowl of despair, and I am never, ever, ever, ever coming out because there is absolutely no hope. Complete and utter hopelessness, silent suffering, right? Just gone away. And it's usually after a loss, anguish, so great that it seems unbearable, and on the verge of just a complete and total emotional breakdown. And unlike horse people who will try things to knowing that it's not going to help them, I'll do it, but it's not going to help me. Sweet chestnut are really desperate for help, truly. They will truly try everything, but they just have such a hard time coming up and out of it, and things just don't seem to be working. That's a sweet chestnut flower. I would blend that with Star of Bethlehem. Vervain. This is very similar, actually, to rock water, which I can never remember. Vervain is, as opposed to being like this fervent, religious, fanatical, thing like that, it's just, they just know everything. It's my oldest son. I'm so lucky because he knows everything. He knows everything. He tells us everything, everybody what to do and how to do it. He's an intellectual snob. He's very smart. This muscle tension, nervous energy, this is what you're going to do, and this is how you're going to do it. And, they're everybody's therapist and teacher and guru and mechanic and cook, and they know everything about everything. Oh, I bought this steak, and I was thinking about, oh, well, listen, you're not going to want to do it like that, because that's a really terrible idea. You should never do it like that. You're going to kill yourself eating that charcoal. Oh, really? Okay. All right. Or like, this is my dad sometimes, too. It's all, he still lives in Orlando. And, we've lived there the same amount of time. I was born there. Granted, he's been driving there longer than I have. But I'll say, oh, I want to go to somewhere. And he'll say, well, I know what you're going to do. You're going to go down 436, and then you're going to go up this way. And you should not do that. Because, this is going to happen, and there's a light there, and now there's blah, 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 blah. I'm just like, I didn't ask you. I have GPS on my phone. Thanks. Muscle tension, they're convinced that they're always right. They're also workaholics. Oh gosh, I'm so upset if people don't listen. Good Lord. Again, you think people are dying if they don't pay attention. Fanatical about certain things. High strung, right? Intense. High blood pressure. You seeing a trend here with these high blood pressures? Fine. My 6-year-old gets the vine. Very bossy, very directive, self-important. Now, on the positive side of this, on the positive archetype of vine, very, I mean, definitely leaders here. They're ambitious, they have vision, they are determined, they have passion and drive. Once they start, they are not going to stop. It's just, I mean, it is, if you want something done, you go to a vine person. On the negative archetype of a vine, they can be very hypercritical. They do not work well with others. This is not a group project kind of person. Oh boy, no, I feel, he's only in the 1st grade right now, but I don't know when they start doing group projects, but I feel bad for that.
He doesn't play well with others.
No, he does not play well with that. This kid literally comes home, he's like a 95-year-old man. He comes home, he needs like a pipe and a little hot cup of tea, because he comes home and he's like, these kids, I don't understand what's wrong with them. I'm like, what happened? The teacher said, sit on the rectangle. Do they sit on the rectangle? No. Why is this hard? Why is it hard to sit on a rectangle? I'm like, okay. Have you taken your Bach flowers today?
Where did you learn that from?
I don't know, it's weird. Obviously my husband. Obviously. Hello.
Throwing Brian under the bus.
Always. I do it when he's here too. Actually, we say all the time, you and I decided to have children. What did we think was going to happen? If you met us, we're both like, will not compromise, and cannot be directed or told what to do. As Ruth and I were just having that conversation in the hallway. I do not like being told what to do. I feel like that's a very positive trait, though.
I agree.
Unless it's my 6-year-old. It's really annoying.
Well, but see, then you look at that from the, but I know what I want. What do you do,
Exactly.
right? See?
Right. See? Sir? Yes, ma'am.
Isn't there a positive and a negative for each flower?
Flower.
Trait. Yeah, it's the personality trait. So of course, so like I said about my mother-in-law, right? She's I say it all the time. No one loves those children like my mother-in-law does, hands down. She loves those children. I mean, to death. So there are always just like any if you follow like Carl Jung, or really with anything in life, right? There's a yin and there's a yang. There's a light and there's a shadow. And so absolutely, hands down. Now, some things like the toilet bowl flowers, the toilet bowl traits I call them, which are situational. I mean, I guess we could say like even with a mustard, right, where it's just like a complete, maybe they needed a recharge. You know, maybe they just needed to unplug and go down for a little while. It's when those things start to become impactful in their life to the point where they can't function, right? So yes, that's a good question. There's always a positive. My nickname's not Pollyanna Sunshine for nothing. Walnut. This is another staple. Everybody gets walnut. Walnut is for transitions, and we are all always in transition, always. It helps us ease through things, whether that's puberty for a 13-year-old, whether that's a new stage of life, retirement, or learning something new, or an ending of life, you know, like you're selling your house, or you're moving to a new place, or you're ending a relationship. Walnut. New beginnings, and it's also, a lot of times I'll use walnut, like I have a client who's going through a divorce, and her husband will not move out. It was his idea, mind you. He's the one that wanted the divorce, but now he won't leave. And so she just feels really stuck and stagnant because she is. And there's not a lot she can do about it yet. So we added walnut to her blend because it'll just help soften that a little bit. Instead of feeling so trapped, it helps her sort of see the possibilities and see the hope and the light at the end of the tunnel. Walnut is also very helpful against subtle outside influences. Now, you are all very in tune with energy and frequencies. So you know a lot of times when you are interacting with someone, when you feel those little tentacles of energetic vampires, or I call it the little Hoover vacuum, just coming in, right? And it's a lot of times it's very subtle and you don't notice it until days later. Walnut really helps protect from that. It helps to shield you up from any whether it's malicious or not is irrelevant to me. Like I said, I don't like being told what to do or manipulated. So when I start to feel that a little bit, I'm like, oh, where's my walnut? Where's my walnut? It's also, we call it the breakthrough flower because it helps us move on. It helps us let go. Yes, ma'am?
I guess that brings me to my question about, would this help someone who has difficulty with letting go of things?
Yes.
Who's a hoarder?
Yes,
Who can't
absolutely.
let go of things?
Yes, yes.
So
Now,
it helps to
hoarding,
move on.
hoarding is also fear and anxiety, right? So I would do aspen for unknown fears, and then I would do walnut, absolutely, because it's a breakthrough. So it helps in very subtle, gentle ways without ripping things out of people's hands. It helps them feel ready to let go. As my mom used to say, I'm getting ready to get ready. It helps them get ready to get ready. I love walnut. Okay, last one. No, not quite, almost, darn. Water violet. Loneliness, right? They are, a lot of times people will say that they are very aloof. This description goes for Scorpios quite a bit, Scorpio women especially. They can feel very superior and arrogant about other people. Like people in general are just very stupid. I actually have a Scorpio client who says that all the time. I don't like people. They're stupid. Okay, that's okay. They feel great disdain for things that are beneath them, right? This is water violet. Will not ask for or allow help. But at the same time, they feel very isolated and separate from other humans, right? White chestnut, this is the Rolodex of the mind. The hamster wheel, I can't stop thinking, go, 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 oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. This goes really well too with impatience, when they just can't wind down, they can't let things go, where walnut comes in handy. Wishes for a switch to turn off the constant spinning thoughts. They continue discussions, kind of like Heather, no. Oh, my mind just went blank, you can look at it. About what they should have done or what they should have said. Especially arguments. Somebody makes you mad, and you don't really say anything in the moment, you smell pretty, but then you're like, oh, well, I'm going to say this, and I should have said this, and I have witty comebacks. Not right now. Spinning mind, white chestnut. Wild oat, this is fabulous for people who feel sort of lost in their path right now. Another third chakra thing. Like, I want to do something, I'm bored with what I'm doing right now, but I don't really know what it is. It helps you find direction. Or especially with career or life path, where you just feel like, oh God, I'm so over this, but I just don't really know what I want to do. Wild oat. Especially wild oat, it's not that wild oat is like lazy or doesn't want to work or, you know, like just wants to lay around and play video games all day or whatever, or daydream or whatever. It's not that. Wild oat is actually very ambitious and very hardworking, but they're just not feeling fulfilled in what they're doing. So wild oat helps find direction, it helps put you on the path, it helps clarify things for you. Also people who get overwhelmed with choices. The cartoon about the feelings, sadness in that movie, depression, she just lays around and they drag her around by her foot, right? It's a very yin state. Depression, it's impossible. They feel as though it is impossible to get up and move. It's more of a mustard state, right? This acute mustard state. Wild rose, they're still getting up. They're going to work. They're doing their things. But they're just, everything is gray. Now, there are pharmaceutical commercials that depict exactly what I just said as depression and then want you to take their pill. To me, something like this, something like mustard, even something like gorse to a degree, is much less a learned behavior and more likely an environmental factor. There's a food issue, we've had some trauma that we're not dealing with, there's something brewing in there that we're avoiding, we're distracting from, so we're shutting down and checking out. So we use these flowers as a temporary sort of gentle push out of the nest to get somebody to turn the lights back on, so then we can kind of figure out what's actually happening, what's really going on. I would never have someone take this long term. I would adjust that. After probably 3 months would be the max. And we should start seeing some changes by then. Willow. Willow is just bitter. Willow is bitterness. Bitter and sarcastic. This poor me. And they really kind of a lot of times will come at things with humor, but from this very like dark, sarcastic humor where you're like, ow, I mean, that was kind of funny, but ow, that kind of hurt. A deep-seated negativity. They've suffered adversity, like some of the other personality types, but instead of feeling like, oh, well, there's nothing to do about it, they're pissed. They're just pissed. At Willow. At everyone and everything.
It just changed from one of those.
A lot of times this manifests itself as autoimmune disorders in the body where the body starts attacking itself. Exaggerated and irrational blaming. Deep smoldering resentment. I was feeling dramatic when I made this presentation, apparently. Willow. Okay, so the blends, you can do up to 7, right? Try to keep it around 5 if you can. If you need help, I have cards somewhere, I'll put them out. You can blend them with vodka or brandy. You can blend them with vegetable glycerin. I like the Now brand. It looks like this. It's a coconut oil. It is sweet, so don't use too much, just a little bit. You can also use apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar makes me cry, so I don't use it. So what you want to do if you go and you buy your bottle, right? Say you want to do 3. Say you're going to do elm because you're exhausted and overworked. You're going to just you can do as few as 1 to 2 drops in your blend, or if you're a fire sign like some of us, you can do a whole dropper full. I do a whole dropper full. Again, it's, it doesn't really make it better, but that's just what I do. I also shake them all the time, which you do not have to do, but I can't help it. I'm a shaker. That's just what I do. I feel like it needs to be mixed up. So you would take that, you would put that in your bottle. I put maybe at a max 3 to 4 drops of the vegetable glycerin, and then you're going to fill the rest with the distilled water. Okay? Then you're going to take them 4 drops 4 times a day, or you can put 16 drops in your water and sip it throughout the day. I put it in my dog's water every morning. I just put all 16 drops in the dog's water every morning. The kids, I put it in their water bottle. They have a water bottle just like mine, and they'll drink it throughout the day while they're at school. Okay? Oh, that's all. I said it all.
Thank you so much.
Yes. You're welcome. Feel free to ask questions.
Tell a little about Rescue Remedy, please.
Rescue Remedy. I talked about that in the beginning, didn't I?
Well, the ones that are in it.